Hello there on this wonderful sunny afternoon in the north of England. I've been asked a question by email, and I always love it when people send me email questions. And the question was about spiritual war. And I guess that's the title of this film, is Spiritual War, ? What is this about? Is there a spiritual war going on? Is there one starting? So this is my answer. In a sense, you could argue, and I'm going to start with in this film, that there is a spiritual war going on, and it's been going on since pretty much forever. And I guess this is where I differ from some people. Some people talk about the idea that there's a spiritual war approaching, or that we're heading for one. Not a bit of it. If you want to adopt this belief system, this attitude, or this option, or this opinion, then I would say, okay, if you're going to embrace the idea of spiritual war as a concept, accept it's been going on pretty much forever. And everything will, when you look at it in this way, make a whole load of sense. And I'm drawn to a couple of examples. There's a friend of mine, a very good friend, and he's just been through a lot of soul searching around the New Year time. And he's made the choice, and the choice is he's going to get off the benefits welfare system and become independent as an independent entrepreneur, making money to support himself. And he's never gone self-employed before, it's the first time. Now, within a very short space of time of him making that choice, of him being on the cusp, on the verge of making that choice, what happened is that someone came into his life who had apparently left his orbit, and this person came back into his orbit and made a proposal to him, offered him an opportunity. And this opportunity would have involved getting even more enmeshed in the welfare benefit system, and would have involved him lying on a regular basis. And it would have been an easy option. It would have meant that he could actually have a lot more time to himself, and it would be money for doing not very much, actually. It wouldn't be much money, but it would be not much money for doing very, very little. And so there he was. So this is, to me, an example of a spiritual war. So when a person makes a stand and decides they're going to do something to better themselves, it's perfectly possible that that will actually attract circumstances which test the person to say, well, is this really what you want to do? So that's just a really personal example of someone I know, and it's someone he knows that's presenting him his opportunity. And I went to see him yesterday, and he's made his choice. He's going to go self-employed. He really does want to do it. And actually, what I want to explain is that that person has offered him an opportunity to slip back into the old patterns and habits, was actually doing him an incredible favour. It might not have looked like it. It could look like the person was being manipulative, being a tempter. Actually, that was a really good thing, because that caused him to re-evaluate this new choice he was on the cusp of making. And when he'd actually made it, he realised he felt even more sure of himself. And so this is what I'm leading you towards, the idea of with spiritual war. So let's take another example. A lot of people, especially on the internet, talk about the Illuminati. And David Icke has been talking about the Illuminati for a very long time. Now, some people present the Illuminati as the very epitome of evil, which are trying to control all human beings. And there's all ways they want to control us, through money, through identification devices. And it's all terrible and it's all awful. You've heard it over and over again. Possibly ad nauseam, or even beyond. And what I want to explain to you is that there's another way of looking at this. So I'm going to go back to the person who sent me this email, because they were saying that they knew of a person who felt that they were creating this spiritual army, and this spiritual army would be fighting with their heart. So, okay, well, that's interesting. Let's just take that on board and look at that a little bit. So I want to go now to something completely different, which is the graphic novel. Now, if you watch modern Hollywood films, they make it clear that the only people that read comics, as they call them, are nerds, geeks, and the like. And what I want to explain to you is that the comic grew up a long time ago, but mainstream society never caught on. It's called a graphic novel. And as well as the superhero greats of Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, yeah, they're still all out there. People are still writing stories based around these characters. And much more quietly and much less well known, there are some absolutely amazing graphic novel stories coming out, and have been for the last 20 years or so. And there's one I want to draw your attention to. It's written by a great writer called Grant Morrison. It's called The Invisibles. Now, it was Jonathan Swift who realised many years ago with Gulliver's Travels that actually, if you want to criticise the established order and you write a pamphlet doing so, they might throw you in prison or, in the old days, actually execute you. So he developed this clever idea. He would write a story, a work of fiction. And in this work of fiction, he'd make it really far out and weird, and he'd be able to throw all his criticisms and his opinions about the society he was living in and his culture. So thank you, Jonathan Swift. So someone who took a leaf out of Jonathan Swift's book is Grant Morrison when he wrote The Invisibles. And what this guy did is he actually wrote a story using the comic graphic novel format, and it's a very powerful format, very underrated, very unrecognised, and he was able to use the combination of text and pictures to show just what is going on in the world today. And there's all sorts of dodgy stuff going on, as I'm sure you're aware. And so this brings us back yet again to the idea that there are secret societies with names, and a name that's banded around as just a general catch-all is Illuminati. And the agenda is control, and agenda is power over. So taking this into the concept of the spiritual war, this is what I want to throw in. And I want to thank again Todd, he knows who he is, for his insight into the forces of oppression, darkness, whatever you want to call them, because he said, thank the forces of oppression, thank the force of darkness, give gratitude to the Illuminati, give gratitude to those that wish to control and enslave human beings. In fact, I'd go further, get down on your knees and thank them for all that they're doing. In fact, David Icke's got, one of his stories is, human race, get up off your knees. Well, I say the opposite to David Icke. Human race, get down on your knees and thank the forces of oppression. And this is why. This is my take on it. The forces of oppression, by giving us challenges, by subjecting us to difficulties, hardships, are forcing us to actually get off of our arses, off our couches, and make a stand and do what it is that we want to do in our lives. And it could become something fairly adversarial if there's something you really disagree with, and you might perhaps choose to protest against it. I've got my own opinions about that, and I'll deal with that another time. However, this is our opportunity. And what I'm suggesting very forcefully and very strongly is that when human beings get their backs against the wall, whether it's in an abusive relationship or a challenging series of life circumstances, perhaps through career, through money, through work, and I'll give you my own personal one. I was persistently and consistently bullied when I had a straight career job for 3.5 years solid. So I worked for this institution for 6 months, education actually, and then for 3.5 years I was relentlessly bullied. It was the very making of me. And in fact, all shamans know that one of the best things you can do to really create strong spiritual growth in your lifetime, if you want to go into the fast track, you find someone to bully you relentlessly. So I was bullied relentlessly by my head of department and by the chief executive of this institution for 3.5 years. It was very hard. At that time I was married with a family, and my wife would become very, very angry on my behalf. And I stayed calm throughout the 3.5 years. I had forgotten my shamanic stories that I'd read from years ago from Carl Castaneda. I was living his story. And what I discovered is that by being relentlessly bullied in all sorts of ways, both subtle and overt, it made me stronger and stronger and stronger. So this is what the forces of oppression and repression do, is they make us stronger, because either we collapse under them and we commit suicide and we press the game over button, or we say, no, I'm not having this, I'm going to get stronger. So this is what all the forces of oppression allow us to do. So when I talk about spiritual war, to me the spiritual war is actually fought on a daily basis as an individual. And as an individual, every single day you've got an opportunity to cop out, to become a lazy arse, to not give a monkey's about anybody but yourself, and to become completely self-indulgent. Or you can do something to make the world a better place, to help someone that you know is struggling, having difficulties. Happened to me yesterday. A friend of mine who's not been in touch, him and his partner, they both got in touch by phone, and they asked me, well, he specifically asked me for help. Now, he's been an alcoholic since he was a teenager. He's now in his early 60s. And I've witnessed all sorts of things visiting this couple in their home. Some of it not the sort of thing I want to talk about on the film. Very personal, not just something you wouldn't want to experience. And very much an example of the spiritual war being fought. The demon's rink, yeah. Basically, the demon's rink had him by the balls. His balls were being twisted in circles, and he was screaming in agony. And he's lived like that for such a long time. But what made the difference yesterday? He's had a heart attack of all things. Yeah, it can get that serious. When I talk about back against the wall, when your back's against the wall, that's when you start to wake up. So this is what the forces of darkness do. This is what our personal challenges and horrors can do in our life. Back against the wall, wake up. Next up, ask for help. So he asked me for help. That's it. Someone asked me for help. I'll have to get up off my lazy ass and go and visit him and do everything in my power to assist him, because that's what I'm here to do. So if you talk about spiritual war, that's the way I would see it. I would see it as being something where the battle actually is with your intention. What are you intending for yourself today? Every day when you wake up, you've got this wonderful opportunity, because what you can do is this. You can dedicate this day to the furtherance of the great work of whatever it is that you can do to make life a better place. And I want to quote one of the forces of what I think of as repression and evil, and it's a well-known high street bank. There's a very popular high street bank suggesting that if you have an account with them, then you'll join some kind of a lottery thing, and then when you spend some money, they'll give something back. And they're doing it in a very manipulative way, and they're tying it into the idea of being helpful to other people. It's very subtle and very clever. And actually, it's another example of how the forces of darkness can actually be help in disguise, because they're actually reminding us about kindness, acts of kindness to other people. So if you've got a day you can't think of anything that's going on special, there's one thing you can do. I've said it before: an act of kindness to another person. It might be 3 or 4 words, it might be thank you, it might be a smile. It could be having a conversation that changes their life. It could be offering to help them with a major job. Who knows what it could be? But that openness is such a gift. So, spiritual war, all the time, every day, every moment. It's always our choice. And here's the key. Because we chose to get born into a free choice universe. A free choice universe is what we inhabit. Now I'm going to call this the end of part 1. And here's my teaser, because this is what I want to say to you. To look at life as a spiritual war is actually taking on a belief system. And in the way I've described, it could be helpful. Or you might choose to transcend that belief system. You might want to let that go. Well, I wonder if that might be a possibility. So end of part 1, and we'll go on for part 2 and look at that. Thank you.